Evening, everyone. Dr. Morse here, Injury Experts. It is the 15th of August. We're about halfway through the month, and we are starting to accumulate a ton of injuries. Tonight begins the second set of preseason games. And right now, I'm going to walk you through all of the major current injuries. This will be one of the free videos for everyone to learn from. Now, there are several quarterbacks banged up right now. Unfortunately, the Minnesota Vikings lost J.J. McCarthy with a significant knee injury. He suffered a partial tear, probably like a bucket handle tear of his knee that was just too large to trim out, so they ended up having to undergo a repair and ended up shutting him down for the rest of the season. And these usually take about 5 to 6 months. These are not the same as a little trim. It will not affect him in the long term, but in the short term, this is definitely obviously something he can't overcome. Sam Darnold has a lot of issues and struggles. I reposted a video yesterday discussing it from Warren Sharp. And we'll have to see how this plays out. Dak Prescott's fine, no concerns about that ankle. Matthew Stafford left yesterday with a little hamstring tightness, not overly concerning. Justin Herbert's still dealing with that plantar fascia, likely partial tear of that right power foot. This will be something that he'll be able to get better back from, but it will probably linger and may re-aggravate at some point in time throughout the 2024 season. Geno Smith sounds like he's finally doing better with that knee and hip issues. Russell Wilson is probably going to play in this week's game. He's back from that calf, about a week out from it. As far as, running backs are concerned, there's a fair share of them that are banged up right now, but there's only a couple that are worthy of discussing. Christian McCaffrey, obviously coming back from that calf strain, not overly concerning. I do have concerns about him in general, but this is his third calf strain in about a year and a half, 2 years. So, we don't know if it's the same location, probably, but he'll push through. He'll be fine for week one. I just have some concerns about other stuff for him. Jahmyr Gibbs unfortunately suffered a hamstring strain the other day. Sounds like it was a grade 1. This is his second in the past 13 months, potentially third. We don't have specifics on the OTA's injury. He only missed for 2 times the first time, and that's when David Montgomery went absolutely nuclear. It'll be interesting to see how they use him this year, if it's even more than last year or about the same. I love his talent. It's maybe a little challenging to justify his ADP if he isn't going to be able to stay healthy, or if they decide to pull back. Alvin Kamara is really starting to struggle, not only with his efficiency, but his touchdowns, and his receptions are really the only thing that's saving him. The offensive line for New Orleans is pretty ugly, and he's dealing with a back injury that I'm not overly concerned about, but it's at least going to hold him out of practice for a couple days to a week. Zach Charbonnet is dealing with something. I haven't seen any updates on it. This might be enough to really allow Kenneth Walker to push ahead. He's looked really good, and this could be his third breakout year. Tyrone Tracy got super lucky, and it could have been a bad ankle injury. He ended up being mild, and he already returned to the practice field, so not worried. He could be an important part of this backfield in 2024. Trey Sermon suffered a hamstring strain in week 1 of the preseason. He should be Jonathan Taylor's backup. We'll see how that plays out. A little concerned, but not crazy. Marshawn Lloyd has already had multiple soft tissue injuries, a hip, which may have been actually a hamstring, and then he suffered a new hamstring. He admitted that he was already dealing with one, and that this has just made it worse. I think it's still mild, and I'm not overly concerned. But yes, there is some concern in general about his ability to stay healthy. I do think he contributes this year, and I do like Josh Jacobs, who had been dealing with a groin injury. I think he'll get a ton of volume, but I love Lloyd's talent. He just needs to be able to stay healthy, but he should be ready for week 1. Kendre Miller, I still haven't seen any updates in terms of him returning. The talent is there, the ability is there, but man, these hamstring injuries are frustrating. Not the worst idea for a late round pick. But he's currently injured, and we don't know when he's going to be available. Joe Mixon had been dealing with what appeared to be a quadriceps injury. He should be good. He should be back. He could get some pretty high volume this year. I like him as a an RB1 in a stacked wide receiver build, or an RB2 traditionally. Donta Foreman got lucky with his neck injury. He did not play last week's game, which isn't surprising, but I think he ends up being maybe the goal line back for the Browns until we see Nick Chubb. I don't think we'll see Nick Chubb in week 1. His procedure was too complicated, and I think he's going to struggle this year. I really do, and I think Foreman's basically free, and so isn't Jerome Ford for someone who could get 200 touches this year. Some of the Dallas Cowboys running backs are a little banged up, but they're starting to come back. And I haven't seen any updates on Kimani Vidal, who had been dealing with something. But it seems to be a little buried, but I still love his potential. All right, switching to wide receivers. Obviously, the most significant injury so far that is not done for the year, as in Rondell Moore, who probably suffered a knee dislocation. We don't have specifics. Is Marquise Brown suffered a SC sprain or a dislocation, which is this joint right here. Likely an anterior dislocation, and as a result, probably going to miss about 4 to 6 weeks. So week 1 is in question. That this will just help Rashid Rice and Xavier Worthy a little bit more, but I don't think it changes a whole lot with them. Puka Nacua did have that knee. They called it a bursa issue. I think it's a little bit more than that based on what I saw. I have a little bit of reservations for him, but in general, I still like him as an elite player. Malik Nabers got super lucky with that ankle. It could have been a foot injury. He already returned to the practice field, so no worries there. Brandin Cooks left today with a little bit of knee soreness. I'm not overly concerned. I think he'll be fine. Christian Kirk dealing with a little minor calf strain. Maybe they shut him down for a week or so. Brian Thomas Jr. is likely going to be the alpha in this group, maybe sooner than later. Still love Evan Ingram. Still love ETN. Christian Kirk's solid, but we'll see. I'm not overly worried about this calf injury, but it will hold him out probably a couple weeks, but he'll be fine for week 1. Jaylen Waddle, another guy I really like, but another soft tissue injury. I don't have any specifics on it. Tyler Lockett, lower extremity injury. This could be the year he finally falls off, and DK and JSN end up stepping up. I don't know, but we'll have to see. He's been very reliable for several years, or at least health-wise. Kyle Phillips of the Tennessee Titans dealing with a hamstring, as well as Tyler Boyd, with a minor foot sprain. He'll probably be out a couple games, but he'd be fine. Sneaky play this year, especially with DeAndre Hopkins dealing with that potentially significant or at least moderate grade 2 MCL, maybe a little meniscal tearing as well. I think we'll see Ridley step up, and we may see Tyler Boyd step in as well. Josh Downs obviously had that high ankle sprain a couple weeks ago, and he is going to be delayed. He might play week 1. He might not. It's too early to know. But this will bother him at least the first half of the season or a quarter of the season, which is unfortunate. Adonai Mitchell has looked fantastic. Obviously, Pittman is going to be there. The tight ends are a little bit of a hot mess, and we haven't seen Alec Pierce as much as he hasn't been as dominant as we would like. Jayden Reed had a little bit of a calf injury, but it was mild, and he should be good to go. No concerns. Chris Olave tweaked his hip, again, not a big deal. Rashid Shaheed returned yesterday from his hamstring strain that kept him out a while. It was kind of cool that he met Drew Brees when he was middle school or something, and got and then got to meet him again and kind of signed a picture. If you haven't seen yet, it was kind of cool. Xavier Lagette came back from a midfoot sprain, should be good to go. Debo-esque per se. Haven't heard a whole lot about Lad McConkey. Love the talent, but I have some concerns about his durability. Demario Douglas, there was a good interview that Nick Ercolano did, I think it was yesterday, the day before, about Evan Laser of the New England Patriots media, talking about how this back, wide receivers are going to play out, worthy of listening to if you haven't heard it yet. Demario Douglas was dealing with a hand injury. He's going to be the possession guy, but I doubt he's going to get more than 100 targets this year, just given the type of offense. Roman Wilson was banged up with that ankle injury for the Steelers. Not overly concerning, but he should be back soon. Quentin Johnson, really haven't heard a whole lot of him. Chase Claypool, who was on the Buffalo Bills, it sounds like he's requiring turf toe injury or surgery, which could potentially hold him out for the season. It just depends on how this plays out, or it could be a grade 2 where he's going to be out, 4, 6, 8, 10 weeks. And I think they'll probably injury settle him, and then maybe he can latch on with someone else if he's able to. And OBJ hasn't been able to do anything yet. I don't know how much he has left in the tank, but he's going to be third, fourth option, maybe deeper than that. David Njoku was walking a little gingerly today. I'm not ready to freak out, but something worth monitoring. Sam LaPorta had been dealing with a hamstring strain. They are at increased risk of re-injury over the first 6 weeks of the season. Besides that, the rest of the guys are kind of irrelevant. But overall, thankfully, no crazy injuries, but definitely starting to accumulate here. This is something that I try to do to give you an idea. I will highlight some of the bigger injuries. All of these are discussed, or at least all the players are discussed extensively in terms of their injury risk and injury history, either in the injury experts' profiles or in the draft guide specifically for drafting. So if you're looking for a little bit of assistance, that would be where I would go to kind of give you an idea of which guys to avoid, which guys to target, which guys are riskier than others. I give a risk score for all of them. We have about almost 3 weeks left, and it's go time. So I'm ready to rock and roll. Let's hope we don't have a whole lot more injuries this week. If you like the content, do me a favor, smash the thumbs up and subscribe, and we will see you next week. Take care.